It's a plot straight out of a Hollywood film and still no clue as to who's behind it.
The $81 million money laundering scandal is now considered one of the biggest bank heists in Asia. But how exactly did thieves steal such a huge amount of money?
Here's what happened. Early February, some $101 million was removed from the Bangladesh Bank. That's the central bank of Bangladesh. Their foreign currency reserves in the Federal Reserve Bank of New York.
Hackers tried to steal around $1 billion and managed to get away with $81 million. It transferred the money from the Bangladesh account with the Federal Reserve Bank of New York to RCBC in the Philippines. The New York Fed holds the deposits of many foreign central banks. The money was allegedly transferred to Chinese businessman William So Go in the Philippines, who then transferred it to the casinos. Go claims his signature was forged.
Now, according to the New York Fed, this was done via 5 transfer requests. Those requests appeared to come from a Bangladeshi server, and the correct bank codes were used to authenticate the transfers.
Cybersecurity expert Semi Yulianto believes hackers were able to get into the system of the Bangladesh Central Bank several months ago, planted the malware, and quietly monitored the bank without anyone knowing.
Once you got the full access to the highest level of privileges, like domain admin, enterprise admin, you can basically own everything. The hacker can easily come and go at any time they like and store whatever they like.
It was one of the costliest ever cyber attacks, and it's claimed a high-ranking scalp, the governor of Bangladesh's central bank.
To protect the image of the bank, I resigned voluntarily to take a much higher moral ground.
Atiya Rahman's resignation came days after Bangladesh's finance minister complained he'd only found out about the attack from the media, not the bank itself.
Welcome everyone to our on-demand webinar, Dissecting the 81 Million Bank Heist. My name is Maruf Ahmed and I will be your host together with Prasad Kulkarni from CyberArk. This on-demand webinar today will last approximately 30 minutes and we are going to cover the key points relating to the Bangladesh Bank Heist. We will start by analyzing why prioritizing privileged accounts is so important. Then Prasad will take you through the anatomy of the Bangladesh Bank attack and the role privileged accounts played in the heist. Then we'll explain CyberArk's approach to IT security and what you can do to prevent your company from being the next one in the headlines. So let's get started. The new battleground for cyber attacks have gone beyond the perimeter, and it's taking place inside your network. And as you can see, by this global study conducted by an independent company, the 53% of the data breaches in the first 6 months of 2015 happened using identity theft. And in 62% of the cases, the malicious outsider managed to break through the security system. The latest reports indicates that over 90% of the organizations in the world have been breached. So now we have gone from a I can't stop everything at the perimeter scenario to moving to I can't stop anything at the perimeter. Now, the key for any attacker is to become an insider. Whether that means starting as an insider, like 12% of the cases we shown in this diagram, or for the external attacker to become an insider, like 62% of the cases in this diagram. Either way, these breaches happened because the attacker utilized compromised company credentials, which allowed them to look and act as an insider. Because privileged accounts are the most powerful accounts in an organization. Privileged accounts or the administrative account, which we often refer to as keys to the IT kingdom, because of the powerful access they provide users to servers, databases, applications, and the sensitive data it housed within. And the privileged accounts are everywhere, every network device, database, server, your social media account, be the accounts is on-premise or in the cloud. There will always be an administrator account on each machine. By design, all endpoints and server contains an administrator in Windows, in Unix its root or similar level account that provides any user in possession of these credentials full administrative control over the machine. Even if you remove the administrator rights from the individual user accounts, this powerful administrator accounts will still exist. So what we see, typically the number of privileged accounts in the organization, 3 to 4 times the number of employees. That gives hackers plenty of opportunities to figure out ways to compromise systems, and once they get into a privileged account, that's it. They are there to stay and they will remain until they compromise the system. And by the way, as you know, the industry record says that on average, it's more than 200 days until an organization gets to find out they've been compromised. Now, question to you, think about this. How many desktops do you have? Servers do you have? Databases, network devices, or similar pieces of infrastructure in your network? While you may be calculating the data in mind, think about this now. In today's world, where cyber attacks are more ingenious and sinister, the perimeter security may keep you out from low-level attacks, or your next-generation firewall may be able to slow attacks down, but the determined attackers, the hacking groups, will find a way to exploit the keys to IT kingdom to get inside your network and masquerade as a legitimate insider. That's why the privileged accounts have been the epicenter of all major advanced cyber attacks in the world now. From Sony Entertainment hack in 2014, which threw the entire studio into disarray and rendered all their servers useless. Now to latest data breach at the Bangladesh Bank this year, where $81 million were stolen and compelled in the resignation of Bangladesh Bank's Honorable Governor, Mr. Atiur Rahman. As the former FBI director said, there are only 2 types of companies in the world, those that have been hacked and those that will be. Even those 2 types are merging into now one category, those that have been hacked and will be again. So now let's deep dive into the Bangladesh Bank Heist. On May 15, 2015, 3 bank accounts were opened at the RCBC Bank. Each of these accounts would lay dormant until February 4, 2016. Only authorities were able to identify later that these accounts were all fake. These accounts would also got revealed later that cyber criminals who attempted to steal nearly $1 billion from the Bangladesh Central Bank had been planning their heist for over a year. Again, thanks to in large part to the spelling error that they did, the attackers made off with only $81 million of the total attempted amount. This presentation today, we are discussing about the Bangladesh Bank Heist, how attackers executed their attack and how this could have prevented. Before we deep dive to know how all that happened, let's review the aftermath. Attackers in the heist made off with $81 million untraceable dollars. After sending the $81 million through fake bank accounts, the money was laundered through casinos in the Philippines. Those casinos are now under investigation by the Anti-Money Laundering Council. In the aftermath of the heist and the handling of the heist, the Honorable Governor of the Central Bank was compelled to resign his post. And now, to demonstrate the role of privileged accounts played in this devastating cyber attack, one of the largest in the recent history, I will pass it to my colleague, Prasad Kulkarni. Hi, Prasad.
Thank you, Maru. Hi everyone, my name is Prasad Kulkarni. I'm the Pre-Sales and Professional Services Manager for India at CyberArk. And today I'm going to take you through how the Bangladesh Bank Heist happened from a different angle. So, to understand how this attack occurred, you must first understand the role of SWIFT in the monetary transactions between financial institutes, which includes the central banks. SWIFT is a member-owned financial services society that provides a secure network through which banks can send and receive monetary transactions. The SWIFT network is centrally controlled and managed by SWIFT, and each member bank has its own systems that can be used to securely connect to the SWIFT network to send and receive money. While each bank is responsible for its own systems, SWIFT does provide several checks, or it does do several checks that help member banks ensure that only authorized users are able to conduct the transactions. Now, before any bank user is able to send or receive money, the user must be first granted a unique digital certificate. This unique digital certificate is directly issued by SWIFT, and for obvious reasons, SWIFT controls the creation of these certificates. There is a reason, and the reason is that this enables them to closely control access to the SWIFT network. Before a new certificate is issued, the member banks must complete multiple steps of verification on behalf of their new authorized users. This helps validate the user's identity and also the relationship to the bank and the authorized permissions that are required. Once the certificate is created and provisioned, it's up to each member bank to properly secure these highly sensitive credentials. Now, many banks choose to store these certificates on smart cards or protect them with multi-factor authentication. But clearly, this is not a requirement from SWIFT network. When a user attempts to send a new message, the authorized user must present his or her digital certificate. The SWIFT network verifies the certificate to authenticate the user. Upon authentication, the SWIFTnet establishes an encrypted tunnel through which the message is sent first from the initiating member bank to SWIFTnet, then from SWIFTnet to the recipient. This assures the integrity of the messages and prevents any kind of potential man-in-the-middle attack that can be carried out over the SWIFT network. Now, this process is itself secure, but it is not immune to any kind of vulnerabilities that could be there at any member banks. Now, if the member bank does not properly secure the systems or the accounts that connect to the SWIFT network, then the attackers can masquerade as authorized users and conduct transactions on SWIFTnet actually without compromising the network itself. Now, SWIFT networks or SWIFT does give some kind of a recommendations or security measures in terms of the certificates, which includes protecting the digital certificates with multi-factor authentication and segmenting the SWIFT network from your overall IT systems. Now that we have a fair understanding of how the SWIFT network operates, let's take a look at the attack path which ultimately led to the SWIFT network. Now, first step over here is the attackers penetrated the perimeter using some type of a malware-based attack. Now, this was could be a spear phishing attack or a targeted drive-by download, but it's either of these two that the attackers used to get into the IT network of the bank. Once the attackers were in, they were able to harvest credentials from the infected systems, and they used those credentials to laterally move throughout the network. This is the IT network. There are unconfirmed reports, or there are reports available which says that about 32 machines were accessed by the attackers before they were able to cross into the SWIFT connected systems. The SWIFT connected systems were owned by the Bangladesh Bank and were configured with SNL software. Right now, this allowed the machines to securely connect to the SWIFT network. According to an assessment by the incident responders, once the attackers were inside the SWIFT Connect systems, they appeared to operate exclusively with local administrator accounts. Notably here, the central banks usually separate, or any bank separates the SWIFT connected systems from the rest of the IT network. However, what they did was, last year they launched a service in October 2015. In October 2015, they launched a service called RTGS, otherwise called as the real-time gross settlement. And when the service was inaugurated, or when this service was launched, they also configured the RTGS systems to directly connect to the SWIFT networks. Now, this closed the air gap which till October 2015 was present, and allowed the attackers to easily move in from the IT networks to the highly sensitive SwiftNet systems. Once inside the SWIFT connected systems, the attackers actually installed a Sysmon software, or Sysmon in SWIFT Live software, to monitor any kind of activity. Now, this enables the attackers to also learn how the systems function, how the financial messages were sent, and identify the corresponding connected services. It's very interesting to note that in one of the cases, the attackers discovered that all the whenever an order was sent across using the SWIFT network, it was also, a copy was also sent automatically to the printer. Now, to keep their actions under the radar, the attackers used their privileged access, which they had obtained by harvesting, to disable the connected printer, and also which could help cover any kind of their tracks. Now, when bank employees noticed that the printer was not functional or was not working, they assumed it could be a simple printer error, and they did not even think that it could be an indication of an attack in progress. Once inside the systems, the attackers were able to capture all the digital certificates which were needed to send messages, as well as the static passwords that the bank used to protect these certificates. Right? So, unlike other banks, Bangladesh Bank relied only on a single factor authentication. Now, single factor authentication, we all know, is very easy to crack. With the necessary credentials in hand and knowledge of the processes, the attackers were able to start sending financial messages through the secure access controlled SWIFT network systems. And in this case, they masqueraded as legitimate authorized users. Now, a total of 35 transactions or transfers or orders had been sent, which were worth $951 million. Because they were using the stolen credentials from the bank, SwiftNet authenticated the transactions and sent them to their intended recipient, which was the US Fed Reserve, or the US Federal Reserve. Now, when all this was done, the attackers who initiated orders worth 951 million, they were all operating as authorized authenticated users. The timing also is something which is of an interest, because it raised some suspicion with the Feds. So the US Federal Reserve started calling up the Bangladesh bankers to confirm that whether this transfer was legitimate. However, by the time the calls were placed, it was a weekend in Bangladesh and no one answered the call because the Fed bankers thought that this was coming in from a trusted source, the messages were coming in from a trusted source such as SWIFT. They, instead of holding the order till the following Monday, they began processing it. Now, first 4 orders worth 81 million were sent to 4 separate fake bank accounts. These bank accounts were in Philippines in RCBC. From there, the money got consolidated or was consolidated into a single bank account, and this had been opened on the same day. After that, was sent to a money transfer company, then distributed to a casino company, a hotel and a leisure company as well. Now, with all the money having exchanged hands with so many levels, the money trail ended somewhere at the leisure company. What happened with the 5th order, which was about $20 million, this was also executed with the Fed reserves with minimal question. Deutsche Bank, which was a routing bank for this transaction, got suspicious when they saw the intended recipient for this money was listed as Shalika Foundation. What the attackers did a mistake was with the spelling of foundation instead of foundation, and that prompted the bank to question, and upon further investigation they saw that there was no record of a foundation company in Sri Lanka. At this point, the money had already been routed to Pan Asia Banking Company, but Deutsche Bank was able to stop the transaction and Pan Asia Bank returned the distribution of funds. As a result, after the attacker discovered, they were able to return $20 million to its rightful owner. Now, this question over spelling from Deutsche Bank prompted the Feds or the US Federal Reserve to contact Bangladesh Bank regarding the 30 other transactions which had come to the US Fed. It is only at that point of time that the bank discovered that they had a problem. The Bangladesh Bank discovered that they had a problem. The printer, which was not functional all this while, was fixed or was restored, and immediately upon restoring, all the 35 transactions got printed out. To date, it's been said that the Bangladesh Bank has been unable to recover $81 million, but it's minimal when you compare it with the $951 million that were attempted to siphon off from the Bangladesh Bank. Had it not been the spelling error, the attackers would have successfully siphoned off close to $1 billion. So let's understand the role of privilege account in this bank robbery. First, after breaking through the perimeter, the attackers captured administrative credentials from infected machines. Second, using the stolen privileged credentials, the attackers laterally moved throughout the environment until they ultimately reached the SWIFT connected systems. What the attackers did in this case was use local admin accounts on each of the systems to monitor any kind of activity, and also use the local admin accounts to harvest SWIFT credentials. Because all the passwords were static and there was no second factor of authentication, the attackers were able to gain and have a constant or a persistent privileged access to both the SWIFT connected systems as well as the SWIFT software platform itself. Now, our next step, this was in preparation to the final step, the attackers used their admin privileges to remotely disable the printer, and which would prevent the employees from discovering any kind of fraudulent transactions being carried out. Lastly, the attackers used the stolen SWIFT credentials or the certificate to send out financial messages and initiated 35 transactions. Now, looking at this, it's clear that CyberArk could have helped prevent this kind of an outcome to this attack, or how CyberArk would have helped from the bank losing or having this kind of a financial loss. First step, CyberArk solutions could have helped the bank to dramatically reduce the attack surface by eliminating unnecessary privileges. Now, as a best practice, always the standard business user should never have full local admin rights. CyberArk could have helped Bangladesh Bank or enabled the bank to remove this local admin rights while still enabling users or maintaining the users to elevate the privileges whenever they need it for any kind of approved tasks or activities. Without the local admin rights or privileges in the first place, it would have become much more difficult for the attackers to break in, move through the network, install monitoring software, or harvest any type of credentials. Secondly, CyberArk solutions could have helped the Bangladesh Bank secure their privileged account credentials. This includes all types of credentials, local admin accounts on the endpoints, domain admin credentials, privileged SSH keys, or any other credentials that provide access to a sensitive account or to a critical system. This also could have included the Swift user credentials, which could have been stored securely in the system. By centrally securing privileged credentials and controlling access to these credentials based on the roles and enforcing multi-factor authentication before granting access, the attackers would likely not have been able to get the credentials needed to laterally move through the organization and then reach the Swift connected systems or even execute any kind of fraudulent transactions. Let's think that what if the attackers would have still been able to harvest credentials using keylogging malware? Simple. Our proactive credential rotation would have invalidated the compromised credentials and made them useless for the attacker. Now the third and another standard best practice is to segment off or create that air gap which is required, a logical air gap that is required to highly sensitive systems from rest of the IT network. This is often seen in many organizations. For example, let's say about retailers who have got separate PCI environments or in utilities who separate and air gap their ICS systems. And it should have been in the case of central banks as well with their Swift connected systems. CyberArk can help organizations separate these highly sensitive systems from rest of the network by establishing a single highly controlled point of access into sensitive systems. This ensures that all the users have a single access point only, and closing down all the other routes into the systems, companies can dramatically reduce the attack surface. When there is a single access point, you can granularly control exactly who is able to access what systems and protect them from any potential risks which could be there on the user's endpoints. As an added benefit, what happens is once all the traffic starts flowing through this one location, the organizations can easily monitor and audit exactly all the activities, thereby strengthening the security and also increase the accountability. Now in today's threat environment in which the attackers can easily masquerade as legitimate users, it is very crucial that organizations monitor all the activities or monitor and analyze all the privileged account activity. These accounts protect the most sensitive data and assets, and as a last line of defense, security teams need to be able to quickly identify any kind of anomalous activity which could indicate that there is an attack which is in progress. In this case, Bangladesh Bank had been monitoring Swift account activity as well, but they could not alert, the systems could not alert on any kind of abnormal login patterns, or they could investigate what was going on and wherein they could stop the attackers before they were able to issue out the 35 orders or transactions. Lastly, by controlling applications on endpoints and servers, organizations can apply whitelisting policies that meet the risk tolerance. By doing this, organizations can proactively prevent any kind of malicious software from entering or infiltrating the environment and detect when new applications enter the environment. In this case, Bangladesh Bank could recognize or could get the visibility that there is a malware on 32 infected systems in the early stages itself, and they could have blocked Sysmon software from running on Swift connected machines in the later phases. While this attack had a serious outcome and required advanced planning, the attack methods were not very sophisticated. Using proper tools, policies, this could have been prevented. CyberArk's proactive privileged account security control could have helped make it far more difficult for the attackers to get into the Swift environment. The advanced detection capabilities would detect the anomalous login activity and also would have alerted the security or the security operations center that something was wrong with their Swift systems. With that, I'll pass on the microphone back to Maruf, who will further explain how you can protect your company from a similar attack. Thank you.
Thank you, Prasad, for this insightful explanation of how Bangladesh Bank Heist took place from a privileged account perspective. And to the viewers watching us today, as you can see by this case study that we have done, the IT admin accounts or privileged accounts known to keys to the IT kingdom are found everywhere. CyberArk are the trusted experts in the privileged account security. Over 2,600 privileged account security customers around the globe, including more than 40% of the Fortune 100 and 20% of the Global 2000. The CyberArk approaches privileged accounts as a security challenge. Their solutions are designed and built from the ground up for security. They have been innovation on this field for over 12 years in addressing privileged account controls, monitoring and analytics. And it's the privileged account security platform is the only one of its kind available today in the market. A comprehensive account security solution focused exclusively on privileged accounts. And now the first step towards securing your privileged account environment is to understand it first. That is why OneWorld InfoTech is offering CyberArk Discover and Audit DNA tool to help you discover where privileged accounts exist, identifying your accounts with the local admin rights, and also to do assessment on identifying machines vulnerable to hash attack. And we're running a special promotion for the month. We're giving away a free security assessment using CyberArk DNA tool for the first 25 organizations, which will get the vulnerability map of their privileged accounts landscape if they would contact us before July 30, 2016. So please contact us now. You can send an email, as you can see in the slide, cyberark@oneworldinfotech.com, or call on the number shown on your screen. Please don't forget this offer is valid only until July 30th. So we thank you for watching and we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you everyone again.